Hey, Derek.
Hey George, how are you?
How's it going? Doing well.
So my name's Derek Pomerank, and I am based out of Huntsville, Alabama, which is a smallish market, about 250,000 people. We have an international airport here, and I started Turo last year. I had one vehicle listing. It was basically just a lease that I didn't want to have any longer, but I didn't want to get out of the lease, so I just researched it a little bit and decided to put it on Turo to make the monthly payment. After a few months of it, it was pretty successful, and I found it was making, a lot more money than just the payment and maintenance, wear and tear. So I started looking into maybe adding more cars. So I did add three other cars to Turo this year in 2025. I kind of did it slow, and along the way, I researched coaching because as an entrepreneur, it is sometimes good. It's a hack to, use a coach or a coaching service to help you automate your business so that it's not requiring so much time away from the business to just keep it going. So that's kind of how I've got started. So it's been almost a full year here coming up in October.
Yeah, fantastic. And definitely seeing your profile grow a lot since our time working together. And that's been great to see. So what first got you interested in starting a car rental business? What got you interested in this path?
Yeah, so I basically had a lease on a Jeep Wrangler Rubicon, and I don't know, I got it in 24, and just things changed, and I decided that I didn't want to be in the lease any longer. I looked at ways of getting out of the lease. Ending leases early is really too expensive. So I thought, you know what? I wanted to get another car, and I convinced my wife that, hey, as long as I could make some income and replace the payment, no big deal. I was free to get another car. So, yeah, so I tried that out, started in October. It immediately went into a long-term lease that lasted from October to I think roughly early February. And in that long-term lease, even with the default discounts that they had set back then, it still made a lot of money. And I was kind of shocked. I didn't really pay much attention to it. Had a really good customer. She was really always in contact. She did turn it in a couple times. We did some maintenance, not a big deal. And towards the end of that, it immediately booked again. And I thought, well, maybe I should look at getting, another car. And, I did what I think a lot of people do, which is they look into getting something, a luxury car that you normally wouldn't get.
Mhm.
I did a little research, didn't go out and, do a lot of research, but I moved into, a Porsche Cayenne SUV that looked like a nice to have item. And I thought, hey, if it's not used, I'll use it personally. But again, I found that in my market, um, I don't ever see it. I mean, it's just always out. Um, I do use it every maybe once a month or so, I'll get it for a weekend, and I have to, basically block it out so it doesn't get rented. So after that, I thought, man, I kind of struck gold here. Let me get a couple more cars and get a coach and get serious about it. So that's how I got into it.
And then with the Porsche, so for people watching that might not know what kind of revenue something like that does, what does that typically book for a day?
Yeah, so the Porsche is a luxury SUV, and along with the Jeep Rubicon, which is your top of the line luxury Jeep. Those both are very similar, and although they appeal to different markets, they both will rent for. I mean, I charge on my side generally 80 to 100 bucks a day. Weekends are a little higher. They will generally pull in gross, 1,500 to 2,000 a month pretty easily. About 70 to 80% utilization. Um, without really doing too much work.
Sure. And then your case was more interesting because I don't work with too many luxury vehicles. We do from time to time, but it was interesting to see how well your Porsche was doing. And I learned a little bit about your market and those type of vehicles from working with you. Would you recommend that the average person starting out try something like in that price range, or would you recommend a cheaper, more economy car for the average person starting on Turo?
Yeah, so I think it's a good idea if you've never done it before, start with maybe a vehicle you own. Like in my situation, I had a lease vehicle. I didn't want to be in the lease. It was easy to put it, list it. There's a whole checklist of things you got to really look for that we've learned over the time that I've been in Turo. I probably would not recommend going out and financing a newer luxury vehicle. The equation that I use for these is the Porsche was, for one, I wanted to find a reliable luxury SUV, which I know is pretty rare. And it needed to be somewhat affordable. When you buy a vehicle for Turo, you want to make sure that you've already got through the 5 year depreciation cycle. So, I bought an older model 2017 with right under 100,000 miles. I used a couple tools that I developed over this time that to help pick the right vehicle. There's some free tools on the internet, and they're just great. If you haven't used any AI yet, this is an easy thing to do. ChatGPT is available on web. There's an app for it. There is a free version. I don't pay the subscription. And when I'm evaluating cars, the first thing I'll do is I'll say, hey, tell me the years of the most reliable, dependable vehicle. What insert name or brand, and it will tell you. It'll go through all the web of JD Power reports, Consumer Reports, forums, and it will tell you the top 10 problems, what's the best year to purchase, at what mileage or major, mechanical repairs, and doing that, basically you can create a list of cars that you would like. Um, that's an easy tool. It's free. And that's, basically I did that without market research. After I got the Porsche and it was successful since day one, I thought, hey, that was under $20,000. I don't recommend going out and financing 30 or 40 or $50,000 in this thing.
Mhm.
I think a lot of people, it's better to start with a $5,000 car that you can pay cash or put on a credit card, something that's not going to be high value, and it's easy to learn. There's a lot of tools out there to help you find these cars. But number one is whatever car you look at, before you even look, you need to your filter criteria needs to be the dependability, the reliability. ChatGPT is very good at that. There's a lot of vehicles to avoid. There's a lot of common cars you'll learn that you should avoid with transmission problems and problems at 80,000 miles with engines. And it's just an easy way to kind of find the right car for you. Even in Hondas and Toyotas, there's models that you don't want to own. So it's not, don't just think automatically, hey, I'm going to go buy, a Toyota or Honda and I'll be fine. I would do the research. And, once I got the coaching, we figured out how to do the market research on Turo, scraping the Turo data and determining what my competition was in my market. I think there's only about 95 cars now in my market. You can easily figure out, there's a couple aftermarket tools that you can plug into your browser and it'll tell you how often they're renting, what they're renting for, what the return of investment is. The next two cars I got were the cheap cash cars, and I got a Chevy Equinox, which there's only certain years you want to buy. So I was able to find one that was the right year, that was the most dependable. I'm getting higher mileage, so they're cheaper. There's not much depreciation. The key is really when you buy the car is when you make your money, because you want to make sure you're able to get out of the car and not lose money, especially if it's not working out for you or if it's totaled. You want to be able to be pretty close to what the actual cash value was for payout. So I recommend things like Facebook Marketplace to find listings. Auto Trader's good. There's a combined free search engine called Auto Tempest, and that combines, I think, eBay, Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace. It combines a bunch of the listing, places where you would find local cars, and you have to look at a lot of cars. I mean, to find the right cars for Turo, they have to be mechanically okay, no trouble lights. I would highly recommend you buy your own little scanner tool. They're $20 on Amazon. It's the ELM 27, the Wi-Fi OBD2 scanner tool. Buy one of those, get the app, watch some YouTube on how to use it. It's really not hard. You plug it into the car's computer. It'll tell you if there's permit codes. Do not I highly recommend not buying a car that's got an engine truck, check engine light on. It can be expensive and impossible sometimes to get rid of those.
Yeah,
You
sometimes it's amazing how many parts you can throw at something, still not figure out what will shut it off.
Yes, I mean, sensors and engine, catalytic converters are a big deal. Once they're, used up, you've got to replace it or else you'll always get a code. Oxygen sensors, crankcase position sensors, it's just you learn a lot about the mechanic side. You don't have to be a mechanic. I do recommend having a friend that's a mechanic or a shop that you trust, that's just going to be one of your partners in this. Obviously, you're going to be doing a lot of cleaning yourself, although, I highly recommend in a commercial account with a car wash. But yeah, you want to have these tools, and you can use ChatGPT to set up an automated tracker for listings. You can tell it, hey, any Honda or Toyota in 50-mile radius that comes up on one of these listing sites that are, 100,000 miles to 130,000 miles, 12 years or newer, send me an email or send me a text message, and they'll do that. They'll run these automated trackers and give you a heads up. There's some Facebook Marketplace tools called, there's one I use called Swoopa, which is an app. You pay some money, a little subscription, and then every time something hits marketplace in your criteria, it alerts you. And you still have to look at 50 or 100 of these things to buy one car. One of the other things I did was I found a auto dealer, someone that owned a dealer license that was willing to resell auction cars at $500 above the auction price. So I was able to, build a list using AI chatbot and tell him, hey, this is my list of cars I'm interested in. If you see these in auction in good shape, these are what I'm interested in. So you can use all these tools to get a car a little bit under the market value, and use that as your fleet. So I've had really good luck. I've got one car that, I bought it probably way too cheap, and the car has not been listed yet. I mean, I'm just chasing the codes left and right. I don't even know if it's ever going to get listed. It's
Yeah.
not that I'm not dumping a ton of money into it, but I'm just doing it methodically. Um, but again, it not every car is a winner. It is what it is.
What has been your biggest winner so far since starting?
The biggest winner is the 24 Jeep Rubicon. In my market, we're 6 hours from the beach, and
Hey, do you want to share your screen and we can actually take a look at that one?
yeah, let me. This is our market on Rent Scout. Let's see if we can find. Well, let's see if my car might not be listed because it's rented. I have to reset this search here. So let's reset it for, oh, let's set it for a time period when I doubt it's rented. How about that? 37 cars available on the 25th of August. And right now, I believe they're sorted by price, but let's use Rent Scout here and load the whole market and see where my vehicles fall in here. Yeah, okay, my Jeep is in here, so I know when I sort. Okay. Okay, so let's sort on revenue. And you can see here on revenue, this is a market with 90 over 90 cars, and you can see my top two cars are here. Okay. So the Porsche, and
Oh,
this is,
wow.
I think it's kind of rare for the Porsche to beat the Jeep. Um, I, I think it's just because I increased the daily prices over, I don't use the automated pricing that Turo recommends. And so you can see here the average daily price on the Porsche is 70, but now that's an average. A lot of times it's way above that. It has an 87% demand. It automatically calculates revenue and market
Wow.
value and the ROI. So it's got an extremely high ROI. Now I will tell you that it doesn't know how much I owe on these vehicles. So that ROI, the Jeep, it is true that if you did pay 58,000 or whatever for this Jeep, 37% would be the ROI. However, in a lease, you're only paying for the time you use it, right? It's almost like you're renting the car from the manufacturer.
Okay.
So my lease was only $24,000. So if you would to plug that number in, you're going to see an ROI of, right around 100%. So, um, I'm not recommending that you Turo lease vehicles. I think that's probably legally questionable. I'm just saying that that's something I did just to substitute the payment and get other cars. It has, however, done very well. So the top two cars in the market, out of these sample size of 30 that were or
Yeah,
40 that were
that's very
available.
impressive to have the top two spots.
Yep. And let's find a couple of my others. Here's my Equinox down here. It does 1,000 a month, 1,200 sometimes. It's not too bad. You look at the RI, it's 164%.
Jeez.
Um, I can tell you I paid well under 7,600 for it.
What did you get that one for?
I want to say it was 7,100 with the title and tags and all that.
So you're going to be closer to probably like 175, 180 percent ROI on that one.
Yeah. And let's see, the other pickup that I got, see if I can find it, which has done well. And it was an experiment because they're pretty rare. And it doesn't look like it's pulling up because it's must be rented during this time range. But I got a Hyundai Genesis and it's not showing up in here because it's rented. And I'll tell you that the Genesis G80 is a luxury car. It's more like a BMW 7 Series or a Mercedes, and you can get them cheap, much cheaper than a Lexus. They're about half. Let's say a Lexus sedan is 15,000, right?
Hmm.
I got a 2015 Genesis G80, the maxed out luxury model for 9,000, and it rents for what you would rent a 15 or $20,000 car for. So it has also done very well. So sometimes it's just looking at your market. You see there's a lot of Corollas in here. I don't want to buy a Corolla. I don't want to be the fifth Corolla in this market. They do well, but you can see there's a lot of Kias in here. There's a
Well,
lot of
looks like that Cybertruck really plummeted. Huh. Let's see that one.
yeah. Oof, I would hate to have that note.
Yeah, the only way I told people that Cybertrucks would make sense is when they first launched, if you were one of the people to have one of the first ones. I did see clients that I've had even making $500 a day renting them out. And if you were able to do that fast enough and make your money, it made sense. But right now I wouldn't touch one.
No, and in smaller markets, the EVs, I have thought about getting an EV just because the EV use tax credit is 4,000. I think my market's too small for it. It would be nice to get a Tesla Model S 2014 with unlimited free supercharging for life.
Hmm.
You can find them for about $12,000 and get the $4,000 rebate back. You're in it for eight. That would be great in a larger market. I don't think I can pull it off in my market just because the superchargers are 20 to 30 miles apart. And, I worry about people running them too low and then having to deal with it. It's a little much for my market right now. So,
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That was very helpful. So, what's one thing that surprised you about Turo that you understand now that you didn't really understand at the beginning of it, or something that you didn't maybe foresee that after doing it for some time, um, you understand more?
well, what I'll say is, with the coaching, what's helped me is let me go find my performance. How many trips I've had. I'm an all-star host. Um, you know, I don't know how many trips I've had. I've had 79 trips. So I will say that the biggest thing that's helped me time-wise has been the automated messaging, the scheduled messages. You set up these basically message templates, and you put them in time and it tells them all the instructions. So that way you're not typing and retyping over and over the same information to the guests. They feel like, they're getting these automated messages. It's telling them what to do and when to do it. I do full remote contactless. I do lock boxes on all mine. A couple of my vehicles have I can go in an app and unlock it, turn it on, turn it off. But this automated messaging has been a big help in terms of, just taking time away. I don't have to worry about it. They're getting the same message no matter if it's parked at an airport. The higher end cars like the Porsche here has a car wash message to help them if they want to, take it through the automated car wash. Airport parking, explain the fees. The three review requests has been huge to try and get, your reviews up. That's been a big help.
Yep. And no, I agree with you. The automations make a big difference, and doing contactless pickup is a must if you really want to grow the business. I've had some people, and you'll see on YouTube too, some people are scared of doing the lockbox system, but I still find that to be the most efficient. And I always recommend that, especially when keeping overhead low, because when you start getting the trackers that can do the lock and unlock function, it's a lot more expensive with installation and devices. And I've had no issues with the lock boxes and find it to be very simple.
Yeah, and when you look at my earnings, I mean, in July, I think I got three cars in May. I had the one car and then I got two cars. April was, I don't even know what was happening in April. That's an oddball. But in May, I think I had three. I got the fourth car at the end of June. And so, July, I mean, I was almost able to get up to 6,000. August, it's August 19th, so I'm going to easily break four, which is good. I like to have at least 1,000 per car. Um, it should be able to get to five. So,
I'll say you got some bookings for October already.
yeah, the Jeep and the Porsche do get far out bookings. People book those well in advance. So sometimes they will both book up. I mean, I think the Porsche was booked up 30%, 40% of this month ahead of time. Um, yeah, pretty good track rate there.
So, from you running this business yourself right now, how many cars do you think that one person could successfully run themselves? Let's say with them working a job too, where let's say they have a 40-hour job a week, because we have a lot of people that we work with that are sometimes transitioning from a job into entrepreneurship or just want to make some more money in addition to their job. So, for those people, say working that 40 hours right now, how many cars do you think they could handle?
I mean, I think you can easily handle five. Um, I'm kind of lucky. I work from home, most of the time the cars are not around. I mean, like right now, I don't have a car. It's what is today, Tuesday. There's no cars here. So it's like weekends and all that. The cars are just not really around. During the week. I think it's five is easy. I think 10 would be some work. Of course, you can limit your hours and all that. I don't have a lot of limitations on hours, but it's not too difficult. Um, you can always train, if you have a kid, high school kid, my son will help and wash cars every now and then. Um, you can get some help. You can co-host. My father, actually, he got his own car, and we're co-hosts. So if someone's out of town or misses messages, we'll help each other out. We've swapped cars between each other at times. If you have a maintenance issue, um, you know, I, co-hosting within your town is, I think, highly recommended. I wouldn't look at it as competition,
Hmm.
but it's really just a business. It's car sharing. Um, Ultimately, the demand is always there. We watch the market pretty regularly. We'll see how many cars are being pulled up each day. Um, it's not hard to do from a guest account. So, you pretty much know when you set your prices a little higher, they're going to get picked, especially if the demand is there and there's not a lot of listings coming up for like a weekend, lots of weekend use. Like I said, I'm near kind of 6 hours away from a beach. So the more expensive SUVs, they go out because they go on beach trips, 2 and 3, 4 day trips, 6 hours away. I don't do unlimited mileage, cap mileage at 200 miles a day. So it's been a pretty good formula.
Yeah, no, you've been absolutely killing it. Um, what would you say? I always like to ask everybody that I've worked with this, what is your craziest experience so far with renting cars? Is there a client or a certain rental that sticks out for you?
Oh, I mean, I've had several really good clients, several nurses. I'm fairly close to a hospital here, and several of the nurses like the luxury vehicles. They like to get them for trips to Florida and back. Some of them just enjoy having an SUV. I think they've got small cars. Um, that's pretty frequent. I would say the most, and this is kind of probably not a great story to tell, but there's always an oddball story, and it's pretty rare, but you know, there is fraud out there where people steal identities. And I did have a case where someone had, stolen an identity, but they had some relationship with the person that owned the identity because they were able to get their license and input it in the system. And what I didn't realize was when I was interacting in messages, I was interacting with another person that was using the identity. Although this person somehow they got the photo with the license and all that. So on my
Mm.
end, they added an additional driver, which was the person that was doing this identity fraud.
Yeah.
So I didn't realize it. I didn't think anything of it. But after the rental was done, the vehicle came back on time, no problems, no damage. However, got a visit from a police investigator. There was the vehicle was at a party. It was seen at a party. There was supposedly a hit and run where they claimed my vehicle did damage to another vehicle, and that's when I started to peel back the onion of, well, who was this that actually drove the vehicle, and what did they do? And the stories
Yeah.
didn't match. There was no damage to my vehicle, and there was no there was a claim and it did go through insurance claims. But ultimately, for the best of me, all I can tell is there was identity fraud, and then there could have also been insurance fraud where somebody else had previous damage, and they just picked my vehicle out in this scenario.
Mhm.
Um, and the police were investigating it. Nothing ever came of it, but that was pretty interesting that the vehicle could have been involved in a hit and run is what it was described as, although there was no signs of it on the actual vehicle. Um, in my mind, it seemed like it was an insurance fraud case that just so happened to also involve identity fraud using Turo. You know,
Yeah, there's layers to this fraud.
yeah, it was unbelievable because of course, I had the phone number through Turo of the actual ID holder, the driver's license holder. So
Yeah.
when I called the gentleman, he had no idea. Now he knew who the lady was that did this. He had some relationship with her, but he was in a totally different town. Had no idea that his license was used to rent a car. Um, you know, she was still messaging on the app as if she was him. So it was very interesting. So a little
Yeah.
more careful now. I'm still contactless, but if I get a hint that there could be something going on, then I always tell them that I'm going to meet them and hand them the keys myself. I have caught a couple expired licenses that people try and get through the system. It's not a lot. It's a very small percentage, like 1%.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. That's typically how it is, but I will say that 1% can really stand out and give you some good stories to tell.
For
Uh,
sure.
well, then, yeah, just to conclude things, is there any last piece of advice or anything that you would like to tell people that are watching this and thinking about starting a Turo business?
Yeah, I mean, start small. Look into coaching. Coaching can help. It's always good to be in a group. Even before coaching, you can, there's Facebook Turo groups of hosts. Although I caution you about these groups, when you ask too many people that are not vetted, you
Mm.
get a lot of opinions, and you get probably 80% false information.
And a
Um,
lot of negativity too. I noticed when I
there is
started,
a
I joined those Facebook groups, and a lot
mhm.
of people aren't making money on Turo. So other people think you can't do it, but it's because you're asking people that don't know how to run the business.
Correct. There is some good advice, maybe 10 or 20%.
Mhm. There
I
are some,
most Yeah, I like to read it because I like to see the different scenarios people get into and then look at the advice people give to get out of it. Most of the advice is bad. But I think, dealing with a real coach and then your experience, you're able to yourself say, hey, what would I do in this scenario? What do I do if a car is stolen or not returned? I haven't had a stolen car yet. I've had a car that wasn't returned for 2 days. So it is helpful to see other people with the same problem and how they dealt with it. There's some nightmare stories of, chopped cars and cars going to Mexico and stuff like that. But again, you have to be careful. You have to have GPS tracker. Um, I there's a lot of things you'll learn in coaching that's going to mitigate these problems. And I myself in my smaller market haven't seen, a lot of these same problems myself. I mean, I feel like um, for one, I don't rent the low tier cars. And I do pretty frequently have a 2 day minimum on. I've
Mhm.
found that the 2 day minimum weeds out the folks that, like, if you have a $40 car a day, um, I don't want to deal with that person. Um, I'd rather have someone that has at least a couple $100 in the bank to rent a car. So I think that just makes life easier. So the 2 day minimum is something that I frequently keep turned on. If cars are sitting around, I'll turn it off, get a couple rentals, and then turn it back on. Um, Summer's a really good time to start. I think winter, if you're going to start in the winter, um, I would scale based on season.
Mhm.
The fall is, I think, generally pretty good through the holidays, and then I think after the holidays, it teeters off a bit. So you just have to kind of be prepared and have a little cash on hand. Keep a little nest egg there just to make sure you're covered. Don't get into big car purchases. I mean, don't get uh, shop for insurance, right? Get commercial rate insurance. Get a commercial car wash account. Do things to save costs. Don't get yourself into some $1,000 a month payment. And don't go out and buy crazy cars like stuff that's not reliable, like BMWs. I mean,
Mm.
I think there's very few BMWs or Mercedes. Those are cars that if they don't have the maintenance plan, I wouldn't even bother looking at them. They're pretty, but they can cost a lot of money maintenance wise because these cars, um, I think really good advice that you see often is don't fall in love with the car. I mean, be prepared that it's going to get dented, it's going to get scratched. It may get smoked in, although there's ways to mitigate the smoke. Just be prepared to have something that you are going to spend some time with. You're going to clean the car, and it's going to get a little bit of damage along the way, and you just got to be prepared to deal with it.
Exactly. Yeah, and if for anybody watching this, if you want to start or scale your car rental business, you can go to carrentalcoach.com, fill out our quick 60-second survey there. And if you qualify to work with us, then you'll work with us on our one-on-one program, just like Derek has. And yeah, we're excited to welcome you into the community. We have a lot of great additions coming. Really lately, as I'm sure you can see, Derek, we've been pushing the community more, really growing the Slack channel and bringing some more experts in there. So really been able to grow that as well. But guys, if you do qualify, you'll see the link down below. And thank you again for taking the time to do this today, Derek. Very inspirational what you've created so far. You gave some great gems and pieces of advice in there. And what I really liked about the knowledge you gave to everyone, which is something I haven't really heard anybody talk about in a video before, was about all the AI tools and how useful that is in the car rental business. Um, so, guys, make sure you watch that part and use some of the tools that Derek suggested because he gave you guys some invaluable information right there. And are you on YouTube or anything, Derek?
I am. I am.
All right,
I,
what's your
I don't.
channel?
Well, I don't know if I mean I've got a channel. I don't even know the name of it. So I guess when you post this video, I'll comment on the video. That way I'll figure out my channel name.
All right, fantastic. We'll get that for everyone, and then we'll see you in the next video.
Sounds good.